This is a brief tutorial on how to use branches to work collaboratively on a project in GitHub. Hopefully it will be brief, but branches can be pretty complicated, so bear with me. We talked in a previous video about how you can clone a remote repository, an existing remote repository, to your local desktop, and what it means to make changes to the file, commit those to your local repository, and then sync them up with the remote repository. And we did all this in a place called master, which is the default branch that GitHub sets up. But one thing you can do is you can actually create separate branches and work on those, and then merge the work done on those branches. And this can be helpful to track sort of changes made by different people, so that you don't step on everybody's toes. You can make the changes that you think need to be made. Somebody else can make changes they think that need to be made, and then you can merge them all. So let's start by making a branch, a new branch. So if you're collaborating on homework, what you might do is you're going to click on this button here, which is creating a new branch. Maybe you give it your name so everybody knows which branch is, whose branch it is. And we're going to create this branch. Now you see that we have master here and then an arrow down with this new branch, Celine. And you see that the branch is showed sort of off of master. And you notice from the pull down here it says Celine. So we're looking at the Celine branch. We can go back up and we can look at the master branch and see here, this is what's gone on in the master branch. Now what's interesting is that we have these two initial commits that were made to the master branch. And if we go back to Celine and we view branch, it shows those. And if you remember from my previous video, it said that these were not, hadn't been made part of the remote repository yet. And the reason that is because right now the remote repository doesn't even know this branch exists. So let's go back and look at the remote repository. If we will refresh so that we make sure that we're getting the most up-to-date information, and we pull down, you see that branch doesn't exist. So what we can do is we can come back and we can hit publish. And so what we're going to do is we're going to publish this branch. Now right now all we're doing is just publishing a copy of what's already in master because we haven't made any changes yet. But now all of these commits are seen as published. And if we go over and again we refresh and we do the pull down, we see that now Celine works. And we can look at either. Right now they're going to look the same. But it's good to be aware of what branch you're looking at, not only on the GitHub site, but also in desktop. So now let's go to Celine, and we are viewing the branch, so we're good. And notice if you look down here, you have commit and sync Celine. So that's a good thing to see, because if we move to master, it won't say anything unless we make changes, but we should. But if you go to your text file and you are here, you will be making changes in your master, not in your branch. So let's make sure we're in our branch. View branch. I also want to note that this says commit and sync. One of the settings you can set in desktop is to automatically sync after committing, and this is not. This is helpful. This means that once you commit, it will sync with your remote repository automatically. There will still be times when you have to sync, as you'll see later, but it does at least reduce the thinking and about syncing your committed changes. All right, so now let's go, we're in our branch and we're going to go to our directory and we're going to open test branches. And this is our working file with not a lot of changes here, and we're going to make a change from Celine branch. Okay, it's just to identify it, and we're going to save it. And now we're going to go over. And the two things we're going to notice in desktop is one, there's a change to commit to this branch. And if we go to master, it's like nothing happened. And in fact, if we move back and look at our text file, it's like nothing happened because now we're working in the master branch. And this is something to be aware of when you're working in GitHub Desktop or with GitHub in general. So now let's go down to Selene. Let's commit our change. First commit to Selene branch. I'm not going to do a description because really what are we going to say? We're going to commit and sync. And so this is going to sync it with, this is going to sync the Selene branch locally, the local Selene branch, with the remote Selene branch. Okay, it hasn't done anything with master yet. And so if we make sure we're in Selene and we look at test branches, we will see the change that we made to our file. And if we go to master, we will see that that change doesn't exist yet. And so you might ask, all right, so we've committed the changes. Now, how do we get those changes into our master? And that is done via pull requests. So when you use branches, you use pull requests to merge the information in your branch with your master. So I also want you to see that we have a first commit here, and when we go back to master, we look at our little graphic here, it still doesn't say anything about that commit from Selene, and that's because it really just doesn't know about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to Selene and we're going to create something called a pull request. And a pull request is just a request to merge this information into the master. And if you'll notice, this nice little graphic says that it will be automatically merged. This means we don't have any conflicts and we will just send the pull request. And now apparently we can partay because it's been created. Now if we go back over here to the GitHub remote repository and go to test, we can go over here and look at pull requests, pull it up. It gives us some information about the merge and it's all green so we can merge it. Some things to know about this is that you can, for instance, assign merging to people. You can give it labels and milestones, and that's something in a much larger project that you could do, and you might even be able to figure out how to incorporate it into a very large homework assignment. But I think for purposes of a weekly homework assignment, you don't need to go that far. So we'll do a merge pull request. We'll confirm the merge, it's merging, and now it says it was successfully merged and that that was closed. So one thing is that you can really only have one pull request per branch at a time, meaning until that pull request has been dealt with, you can't generate another one. So now let's go look at test again and let's look at master. We're in master, we confirm that, and we're going to look at the text file. And there it's been created. So now let's go back to GitHub Desktop and see what's happened there. All right, here, first commit, we've made a pull request to the master. Let's look at the master. Well, but the master doesn't say anything. So in this case, what we need to do is we now need to sync our local master with the remote master so that we can see those changes. So we'll go ahead and sync. And now indeed, we can see that pull request. If we're in master, we can look at this and we can see the change made. And in fact, if we go back to our text file, we'll see that change made. Hard to know this being different from the Selene branch, but indeed we can take it that we are looking at the master. So now we can go to the Selene branch and notice we have this merge up here, and the head is down here. This is sort of where we're pointing. And now what we can do is we can update from master. And in this way, when we update from master, we're making master and the branch all the same. So let's update from master, and you'll see that now this merge has been sort of merged into your branch. So now we can view the branch. There's no new commits. We can look at the history. We can see the history, and the history should look at this point a lot like the master history. Obviously the commit to the branch doesn't show here. So now let's do something a little bit different. Let us make a change. Again, we're in the Selene branch. Let's make a change to this again. Make another change from Selene branch. But this time, let's go over to our remote master, and let's make sure we're in master, and edit the text file here. And now we're going to leave 2 spaces and make a change to remote master. And we're going to commit those changes. First remote change. Commit those changes. Now, in doing this, what has happened is our local master has now diverged from our remote master, because the remote master has this change and our local master doesn't. And we've made changes to the branch based on that previous version. This isn't a particular problem. However, one thing I will note is that if we look at this, in fact, let's look at this. This is on line 7. Let's look at master, go back to the text file. We haven't synced, so it doesn't see the change. But if we go back remotely, we look that we've made a change on line 7. Okay, so now let's go to Selene branch like this, and we notice that the update, so now let's sync the master, because right now it doesn't look like we have any problems. So we'll sync the master, and we see this additional commit. Okay, so now let's go down to Selene. And now we know there's this, so let's try to update from master before we try to do a pull request, and let's see what happens. So let's update from master. Well, dang, it doesn't like that. Okay, so let's view branch. And let's do a pull request, and it says green. All right, let's send the pull request. Validation failed. No commits between master and Selene. Well, all right. That's because we haven't done any new committing. So now let's commit. So this is our second commit from branch Selene. So to be clear, what happened is we tried to do a pull, but to our local repository, we haven't made any changes since the last time. So now let's commit and sync with Selene. We'll also close this pull request for now. Now it committed, but now our pull request is red. So now let's go back to master. We have this remote change. Let's go to Selene, but let's look at it from here. And now let's try to sync these two. And it doesn't like it. So let's update from master. Ooh, it does not like that. So now we're going to try to update from master, and it says, nah, there's conflicting changes. So what you do, you need to fix these before you're going to be able to send a pull request. So let's open the editor and see what the problem is. So what this shows is where we're pointing at which is we're in Selene. Where we're pointing at has this change, and in the same location, in the master, it has this change. So let's say we really want this change on 7, and we want to make the branch change to be second. All right, we like that. So let's save it. Let's go back. Commit this. We're just going to leave this here because this is an error that happened from being sort of out of sync with a master. And now let's look at what happens to the pull request. Well, we've resolved that problem, and so now we can send the pull request, go over to GitHub, and go to pull requests, select it, merge pull request, confirm merge, and now it says we're all good. So if we go over to master and we look at test branches, we've got this is all fixed. And if we go over to Selene, should be all fixed. And so now we've dealt with that. So now let's go to master, sync master. We get our merge. We're going to go to Selene. We're going to sync. We're going to update from master first, actually. And then we're going to sync. And then we're going to do that. So the idea to keep in mind is that we sync our local master to our remote master when we're in master and we hit sync. We update our local branch with information from our local master when we do update from master. And we update the remote branch with the local branch when we hit sync and we're in that branch. And we use pull requests to merge the changes that have been committed to our local branch to our remote master. So it's all a little bit, it's just a matter of keeping track of where changes are happening. And for homework, my suggestion is everybody keeps a separate branch. You make your commits until you're done with the homework, you like what it looks like, and you do a pull request. And then we'll deal with that pull request, and everybody else can do the same thing. They can make changes. And we don't do any merging of the master until everybody has made their changes. So once we know everybody's made changes, then we'll do we'll merge all the pull requests. And I think too, if you see, it may be that, for instance, one user does a pull request and somebody looks at it, merges the changes. So you want to make sure too that maybe you're updating, not even maybe, make sure to update your master before you make changes to your update from master before you start making committed changes to your branch. And that should deal with any issues that we would have. And then if we run into issues, we'll figure it out. I hope this has been helpful. I know it's a little confusing. I will put a link to some documentation out on Git SCM, which will help you kind of understand how branches are working, and I think it will make some of this video a little bit more clear, perhaps. Thank you for your time, and ciao for now.